Good evening, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good night, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, the following is a collection of news from Patriots. Alright, here we go. Folks, they need to pass a bill. We need to pass the NDAA bill, the National Defense Authorization Act bill, to fund the military, and boy, are they trying to pork this thing up, as I reported yesterday. They are trying to put all kinds of things in there, like the supposedly Journal of Journalism, the JCPA, the Journalism Competition and Protection Act, which does nothing but empower and give more power to the conglomerate mafia and in the media. It's so important that we throw that in there. And we see that Republicans are kowtowing and bending over and folding over this giving in. But that's not all. Democrats are trying to attack marijuana reform, among other things related to that nation's defense, to the annual NDAA, National Defense Authorization Act. The House Rules Committee was scheduled to pick up the NDAA on Monday. However, Chairman Jim McGovern, Democrat out of Massachusetts, announced the package is not ready yet, and nor the committee remains ready to take up as soon as text is finalized. Now, as the NDAA has been must-pass constant, see folks, for 62 years, the NDAA has been must-pass legislation. It's by design that they're trying to screw over and weaken America and our military. How then weaken our military? First of all, they're purging everyone who's conservative, MAGA, pro-Trump, or America First from their essentially making them people who are oathkeepers, and want to uphold the Constitution, or enemies of the state, because these Marxist bastards did not believe the Constitution. They are breaking in, and dedicated on our Constitution every chance they get. And because they have their own corrupt judges and Department of Justice and Attorney General, that only they not uphold the law. They break the law and then they support themselves in breaking the law. We can see an extreme example of this in everything that's happened at the Department of Justice and the FBI. Right up to President Trump came in, and then pretty much after that nothing being done by Sessions, nor Attorney General Barr, who we now who knows the swamp creature working for the establishment. And we have a cautionary tale. I wonder if we'll handle things like Brazil. Seems like they're about to handle it. But if you want reporting on what's really going on in Brazil, by design that tried to destroy our country and our military, how about not being able to pass the NDA, because you throw all this pork in? That's controversial that this gentleman does Journalism Protection Act has been shut down several times. They tried to move it forward to try to put it in this thing to make it controversial. Maybe this is all to sabotage the passing or the not passing of NDA, and once again weakening us, because we don't even have our military funding in order. So now the latest thing is Democrat Senate Leader Chuck Schumer is pushing to include the Secure and Fair Enforcement Banking Act in the NDA, so as I reported before, so that they can remember marijuana as federally illegal, but several states, 21 plus states, have made marijuana legal, so the SAFE Act, so that even though it's federally illegal, people or businesses delving in the business of cannabis, marijuana, whatever, can get bank accounts and do banking in, and not be federally stopped from doing all of that. That's the priority: marijuana laws and empowering China and big media news outlets in our national defense bill. By design, folks, probably by design to sabotage it. Let's go to what's happening in Oregon. Very interesting. The Oregon Department of Justice is asking a district court to temporarily block the permit to purchase requirement contained in the recently passed ballot measure 114 in the state of Oregon. It's a multifaceted gun control package that passed with a 50.65% of the vote, a very small margin. Isn't that funny? How it works. Democrat Mark says things always pass by the slimmest of margins. Nice try, conservatives. Mitt, better luck next time. The measure bans ammunition magazines holding more than 10 rounds and requires Oregon renters to get a permit before being allowed to purchase a gun. In other words, they're trying to be tyrannical like their neighboring California. The room is gonna cost $65, so that means a $500 is not a $5 pistol is not gonna be $565. But here's the thing. We had a great Supreme Court ruling, which a lot of more red states, some are saying, hey, that just it's all about constitutional carry. Or you can't have these permitting processes that discriminate against who can and who cannot. So let's see what happens. This Department of Justice in Oregon, their state department says, is doing a good job and trying to temporarily block this new control bill. Okay, so let's talk about elections. Democrats continue on and on with the big lie that the more we learn, the more information we have access to, the more we realize that in fact, the big lie is really the big lie. Democrats want to talk about democracy. But Democrats, as we know and as we are learning more and more, seem to be taking notes directly out of the Vladimir Putin playbook on how to win elections, and they have developed what may be a foolproof strategy, even admitted it a short while after Biden's inauguration. Of course, it will do a flashback to that, and I'll show you what I mean by that a little bit later in the video. But what we need to focus on is the compiling evidence that the system is not fair as Democrats claim it is, that it isn't a big lie or extremism to be discontent with the way that things are currently going. Another massive bombshell, this time out of Arizona. Guess what? Katie Hobbs is now implicated in the Twitter files. We now have irrefutable proof that Arizona Secretary of State Katie Hobbs had connections at Twitter, in fact had a direct line to executives at Twitter to silence her critics. Does that seem appropriate for a high-profile Democrat running for public office to have a direct in with executives at the biggest online platform for speech, and especially political speech, to have a direct in to be able to silence her critics and silence narratives that don't benefit her? It's not a fair game, folks. The Democrats seem to be the kings and queens of propagandas and shady tactics, and the proof continues to pile up. All right, folks. Take a look at this from the Gateway Pundit proof. Crooked Secretary of State Katie Hobbs had Twitter silence her critics in Arizona prior to gubernatorial run data from Mo versus Biden. Now we know why crooked Katie Hobbs didn't want to debate Kari Lake. Why would she, when she ran the election, oversaw 30% of Election Day precinct machines breaking down and had the media in her pocket and was working with social media platforms to silence her critics? This is likely criminal activity, especially if she silenced her critics, which is likely via Trump attorney Christina Bobb. Unreal. Katie Hobbs. His office contacts Twitter to have posts removed, so the Democrat candidate who ran the Arizona election censored her political opponents, disrupted Election Day votes, and then threatened counties with prosecution if they didn't declare her the winner. Take a look at this document right over here showing correspondence between Katie Hobbs's team and top officials at Twitter on Thursday, January 7, 2021. Misinformation reports. Redacted Communications Director Office. Hello, I'm redacted Individual Communications Director for the Office of the Arizona Secretary of State. I am flagging this Twitter account for your review to your Twitter. Please see this report below from the Arizona Secretary of State Office. Please let me know if you have any questions. I am not sure the best contact email to send this to at Twitter. Thanks. Twitter then responds, thank you redacted individual, we will escalate. Then another reply. Thank you, both tweets have been removed from the service. Thank you. The whole thing is one massive conspiracy, and it's all connected, this massive widespread effort by all of these social media platforms working in unison all at the same time, not just to ban certain individuals, not to ban the President of the United States, but to censor speech surrounding particular topics. It seemed as though it wasn't necessarily the social media companies who are taking action on themselves, but rather politicians. The Democrat establishment, the FBI, were behind the whole damn thing. You know, the Gateway Pundit asked a great question. Why would Katie Hobbs feel the need to have to debate Kari Lake given all the power that she wields? She has the power of the media in her pocket, willing to defend her, willing to call her opponent an extremist's threat to democracy, suppress her gaffes and suppress her scandals. She's running her own election. And on top of that, she has the ability to actually censor speech. Political speech relevant to the state of Arizona during election times. Now, so far, the only example that we have is from January 7, 2021. But who knows, maybe there's some correspondence between the Arizona Secretary of State Office and the Twitter censorship division after Katie Hobbs officially declared her run as a gubernatorial candidate ahead of 2022. But honestly, even if that never surfaces, this alone by itself is so highly unethical, and it shows how things were swinging in only one direction. The counter-leftist talking points, or the anti-Trump talking point right now, is that the Trump administration also had channels directly to Twitter executives to remove posts. Well, where's the evidence? Have that? Whereas the macro evidence that it was being enforced on a wide scale, there was nothing to suggest that this is a both sides issue. This is Democrat candidates, Democrat politicians censoring unfavorable information post-election and pre-election. And if that's the case, then it really starts to paint the picture. You start to see exactly what I was talking about when I mentioned earlier how the Democrats have crafted this foolproof plan. There's a reason they could run someone like Joe Biden, a man with a melting brain, and still see electoral success. There's a reason they can run someone like John Fetterman and see electoral success. There's a reason they can run someone like Katie Hobbs, as unlikable as Katie Hobbs, and see success because they have control over the whole machine, the shadow machine. And this brings us to what I was talking about earlier, where the Democrats essentially admitted it. This 2020 piece from Time magazine, The Secret History of the Shadow Campaign That Saved the 2020 Election. We all remember this little snippet from that article. We covered this basically 2 years ago. That's why the participants want the secret history of the 2020 election told, even though it sounds like a paranoid fever dream, a well-funded cabal of powerful people ranging across industries and ideologies working together behind the scenes to influence perceptions, change rules and laws, steer media coverage, and control the flow of information. That is what the Democrats are doing. And you're not going to tell me that sounds like the description of a free and fair democracy. That is what you see in authoritarian dictators, state elections, a secret shadow well-funded cabal of powerful people working together to influence perceptions, change the rules, change laws, and steer media coverage. That is the perfect description of what people are so frustrated over. And yet the media will tell you that that's a big lie, while simultaneously literally telling you it's actually not a lie. It's actually the shadow secret that vote saved the 2020 election. I never want to hear the word democracy ever come out of a Democrat's mouth ever again. You see what's going on this massive machine? Frankly, it's a well-oiled machine. I mean, you got to give it to them. Post-2016 they got real serious working together to ensure that Donald Trump can never win again. And they've created an anti-democracy monster. And hopefully the whole thing is unraveling. Hopefully, the Twitter files this newly found transparency, this window into the corruption and how deep it goes and how it involves individuals, Democrats running for public office, the DNC, the FBI, the quote, Biden team, in other words, the Brandon regime. Hopefully this whole thing is being exposed. And hopefully, frankly, people start to give a crap. That's probably going to be the hardest one. The media is obviously not going to shed light on any of this because, I mean, they're basically part of the shadowy system. And so it's going to be tough. How do you make people aware of what's going on? How do you make people aware of the magnitude and the details behind this massive widespread conspiracy to take control over American politics and culture? But I guess, in conclusion, the big lie is the big lie. Thank you very much. WWG1WGA. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button to watch the next episode.